boiling. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you how I have my PSA 556 Krink set up with some really cool stuff from Sureshot USA. Bandito Bill, I know you're watching, was cool enough to provide these products for your enjoyment, for me to review, and he really wanted honest feedback, so we're going to give that now. Mainly we're going to talk about the Mark III chassis for the Krink. Really been blowing up all over YouTube and Instagram, and there's really only a couple of videos out there. I know PSR has a really good video on it. Adventuring Lens, Brandon Knowles has a pretty good video on it. But a brand new product would be this little guy right here, the SS19 Stock, which is the Sureshot USA attempt at the AK-19 stock. Kind of looks like a little baby Zukov, but it's meant for 4.5, and I believe they even have 5.5 versions for folding rear trunnions, like 100 series folding rear trunnions. So today we're going to get into this whole thing. I've got a couple other bits on this guy that I want to talk about, and how I think that the way that this little guy is set up is pretty next level. Just the way it handles, the way it moves, how maneuverable it is, the reloads, how shootable it is. We even go to a match today and do a little bit with that, and overall has just really become like a very cohesive package. Everything really works with one another, especially when we get into that optic, which is another really cool thing. Before we get into the Krink, if you want to help out the channel in any way, we got thirdpinthreads.com, dude. We sell t-shirts, got some really cool hats. We're always putting new stuff on the website, clearancing out items. We have a brand new artist, Paul. I know you might be watching. Cannot wait to get his art on some merch. It's gonna be awesome. He's a badass tattoo artist out of Austin. He's really gonna come up with some cool designs for us. He's also the guy doing all the designs for our event coming up around the corner called Lethal Weapons Texas. Put up a picture of that now. By the time you're seeing this video, those tickets should be live, like recently live. So kind of excited about that. It's a retro shooting competition, meaning like all the guns that come out are all like pre-banned, Cold War, World War II, and beyond era guns. It's really the only thing of its kind in the country, and it's very special. We had it last year. People seem to love it. Bringing it back this year, having multiple matches. I could go on and on and on. But yeah, go check all that stuff out. I'll drop links to all that down below. Now, let's get back to the Krink setup. So up front on this thing, we're still running the factory booster. Man, honestly, purely for aesthetics. I love these Krink boosters. This is just a muzzle device you don't see in 2024. They don't make them like this anymore. This is just a cool relic from the past, you know, the AK past. Got a pistol grip on here from Kyber Customs. This is the Sonya wooden grip. What's really cool about these grips, they're actually made like the same way that surplus AK furniture is made. It's laminate, many pieces of laminate all glued together and formed. And what's really cool about this piece is it's actually shaped a lot like the US Palm grip or the Tango Down grip. Some people know that they were made by like two companies at one time. But on like a really tactical space AK, having a little bit of wood, Kyber Customs calls it like having a hybrid, a little bit of wood on a modern AK, you can't go wrong. The trigger is still factory. I really think it needs an ALG. This trigger is totally fine, totally usable. It's like a really long single stage trigger. It doesn't really feel like a two stage. It just has a really long pull. It's smooth, has a nice break, resets fine, but it's not like bad where I would just, you know, go out of my way to change it out. We will get an ALG eventually. This safety, there's no reason to change that out. It's just perfectly tuned from factory. You got the shelf. There's no cutout. There's no bolt hold open, which I think is a good idea to not have the notch right there, just to not let stuff come in if you don't need it. Yeah, the safety's fine. This I'm kind of excited about. It's my first one. It's a TWS Hobnob enhanced charging handle. They're really cool. It's held on by 3 set screws that you have to lock tight. And because of that, the way that it's designed, it can set very straight and level. You know, some of these charging handles, when you put them on, they'll kind of set kind of wonky. It depends, like luck of the draw. This one, the way it's designed, you can really tune how straight you want it. And it fell out perfect. And we've got hundreds of rounds on it so far. It has not come off. Extended charging handles are notorious for flying off on AKs. I have heard some reports when I showed pictures of this that like a handful of people said they couldn't get theirs to stay on. But the overwhelming majority of people running these say it is the only one that stays on. and we've got hundreds of rounds and it's stayed on perfectly fine. Charging this thing has been extremely easy. Got a ton of footage of that. It's made reloads quite fast.
Not bad. Oh, search for that one. That was freaking fun, man. Still rock solid, super tight, very nice.
Now the chassis, again, this is the Mark III Krink chassis from Sureshot. It comes in 2 pieces, just like all of their other rails. In fact, we have a full video on their Mark II chassis, I believe it's called, a full-length version on AKM, which is much beefier, which really bucks the heat. I mean, it probably is the best chassis out there to mitigate heat. This mounts very similar, as in it's in 2 pieces. So if you look here, you can actually see the seam right there. The forward piece here will mount to the receiver, and once all that is bolted down and you can kind of like move it around, it's designed to like move around just slightly up here where you can really get some tension on that back piece. And it's all tightened down and you get your dust cover snapped in place. It's rock solid and really not that big a deal to install. Once you get the dust cover off, which we'll talk about, I'd say the install is like 10 minutes, honestly. And that dust cover in the rear, as you know, with all their other chassis, it's really only meant to hold magnifiers. It does have slight movement. They're very open about that. It was never really intended to hold 0. So as long as you manage your expectations, that won't surprise you when you install it and see like, oh wow, actually it does have a tiny little bit of movement. The forward section here is rock solid. It does not move at all. And that's where I've got my dot mounted, on the ass end of that front section. Now this, for the small hand kings such as myself, this slimmer rail really is a welcome change. Unfortunately, it gets hot really fast.
Ooh-wee, is that hot. When you do buy one of these, what's really cool is the box has a scan code and it takes you to their channel where they have a how-to video, so they've got you covered there. Without the video, I really wouldn't have kind of understood. I didn't know right away. I guess I'm just naive, or I didn't really look at it that close, but I'd completely forgotten that with these rails, especially on the Krinks, you have to remove the factory dust cover permanently to put this on. In fact, I'll show you here close up. You still have the nub that used to pin on your hinge dust cover. It's still there, fully exposed, and they even have the rail cut for it so it can protrude, just so that everything can get down nice and low. But after watching their install video, it wasn't that difficult. With a hammer and a punch, I got the old pin out. And I remember there was another pin in the bag, and I even sent them a DM, and I'm like, what's this other pin for? And they're like, if you ever want to put the factory dust cover back on, we provide another pin. So then I was sold. I was like, all right, I'm definitely okay with installing this. I get so bored with parts. I go full modernized, then I go back to factory stock, and then everywhere in between. So I was a little worried about taking that dust cover off, I'm not gonna lie. But with that new pin, it's just one less step when I decide to put it back on, if I decide to put it back on.
It has a rear peep sight here that you can see. Mine's pre-production, so it's 3D printed. They are going to start making steel versions. As soon as that's ready, I'm popping it on there. We did quite a bit of shooting with the iron sight, with the dot, and we'll talk about that later, but it's a really cool iron sight. It looks good, very non-intrusive to the overall like sleekness of the design. It's there, it's usable, and it's cool that they give that to you, because you don't have an iron sight now that you remove your dust cover. In fact, you've doubled the sight radius, which is kind of cool. So the stock, SS19, again, mine is pre-production, so apparently the ones that are available now are even nicer than this from what I'm told. They have less rattle. I wouldn't say this one has any rattle unless you adjust it, like so. Has a little bit there. They say that the production models have tightened that up quite a bit. But you have 6 positions here with a little push lever right here. You push that in and you can do anything you need to do. I usually run mine on setting 2, right about there. That's been my sweet spot. And you do get QD on both sides. Pretty nice. And this one is in 4.5, meaning the hinge pin's 4.5. And keep in mind that the PSA hinge pins are kind of oversized, so a lot of different aftermarket options fit very, very tight. This one does. But on all my other AKs with 4.5 pins, it's buttery smooth. But on this one, you really kind of have to manhandle it to close it and open it. But it's just that friggin' pin that PSA puts in these. They're just a little too oversized. Now, I know people are going to ask about how far it folds. That's how far. Actually runs into your optic mount right there. If it was slab-sided like an old school factory Krink, it would fold a little bit tighter, but that's just what it does. So, is what it is. Cherry on top of this thing has to be this dot. This is a Novus MDS-3, and I think just about everyone that's buying these Sureshot chassis on these Krinks, this is like the dot I see a lot of people going with. I think PSR had this dot. Brandon Knowles on the Adventuring Lens channel had this dot. What it is, it's a Chinese company that is cloning Russian optics. This is a clone of the Zenitco Visor optic. So you can do your homework. You can search Zenitco Visor. I think it's like VZOR. And you'll see this exact optic. It doesn't have any Cyrillic on it or anything, but it's a 1-to-1 clone. Has the AAA battery on the side, gives you like 60,000 hours. It has that Russian aesthetic that overall on this gun just nails the look. It's like the perfect little optic for this thing. What's wild is it's below 300 bucks. I paid full price for this. No one sent this to me. I just bought it, had to have it. And in the box, it comes with 3 risers, 2 mounts, an offset mount, which was wild. A ton of stuff. A tool, a kill flash, caps, all kinds of shit. I think I paid like $265 for it. Unbelievably great deal for what you get for the money. It's just a big bonus that it looks very Russian, so on an AK it looks great. Here's the big bonus from this thing. All of the risers are hollow on the bottom, so you kind of have like these cathedral-sized holes that go all the way through, and it's like the same exact shape as this peep that comes on this thing, so you can use the iron sight and look directly through the riser, completely unobstructed, and get a perfect sight picture. Look slightly up, and bam, there's your dot. I didn't plan that, just sort of worked out that way. So here's my little 3D printed rear peep, as you can see there. And you can see that the riser is hollow, so we can actually peep right through it to see that front sight post. I have not zeroed the front sight post to the provided peep. It's still zeroed from the original dust cover. Let's see what it's like. I'm actually getting hits. Back to the dot, back to the irons. Wow, that actually worked quite well indeed. Pretty cool. Everything is still totally usable. That's pretty badass, actually. Wow. We're actually dropping plates on a plate rack with that 3D printed rear peep. Pretty cool. I think it hits a little high, but not bad. We can always adjust that on the front sight post. That's pretty badass. Man, boiling. It is so hot. Magwell gripping's all we're doing right now. So we're like 6 mags in, 2 mags fully suppressed, the rest were all
relatively quick firing with just the booster on. And it's very hot. So the rail's very, very hot, but it's not like instantly vaporizing water. Thank you, camera girl. I will say it is extremely handy to the point where I probably wouldn't even put a forward grip on one of these. And that being said, these actually, as you can see on the bottom there, they've only got open M-lock towards the front. These M-lock ports here are closed. You can't put anything on them. So even Bandito Bill was saying you could get like some BCM grips that have 2 M-lock slots and just do the front slot. I tried a Slate Black Industries forward grip, and it was cool, a little too close to the front for my taste, so I just kept it smooth, and it does offer a very nice grip. I don't have the biggest hands in the world, so that right there is nice. And I did put a little Magpul rubber 1913 covers there, and that's fine. And I will tell you, a little bit of water and this thing is okay to hold again with a glove. But because it's such a light and handy package, magwell gripping on crinks is actually fairly easy. It's really not a big deal. They're extremely wieldy from a magwell grip. Stock's been great, has not opened up on me. The adjustment hasn't opened or closed on its own at all. It's been great, and just to know that the production models are going to be even better than this, tighter, as you can kind of hear here. I'll kind of get it out here just so you can hear it. It's got a little bit of wobble, just a little bit. Really not a big deal, but he says the new ones are even tighter, but I haven't really found that to be a problem at all. I didn't find this to bind up the carrier at all, put any extra wear or stress or friction on the carrier and bolt moving back and forth at all. There was nothing like that. Other chassis systems I've tried sometimes have to be finagled where they don't like rub on the piston head or put a little tension on your carrier as it moves back and forth. Not an issue here at all. And you kind of have to admit, the body lines on these Mark III chassis on these crinks are just cool. They really do look good. They come in several different colors too, which is cool. I got the gray one. I know they have a plum one, a tan one, and a black one. If I could do it all over again, I don't know. I kind of like the way Brandon has his set up on the Adventuring Lens channel, just totally blacked out. Might go black if I could ever do it again. But the gray is really freaking cool. It's very different. And that contrasting like bright gold hobnob from TWS, pretty cool. Okay, the iron sights work. The red dot is zeroed. The suppressor is suppressing. And the chassis is chassising. And everything else has stayed nice and tight. The stock has been tight. The hobnob's great. The grip's great. That optic has survived. And this chassis has gone through a few heat cycles today, boiling hot. Let's go ahead and take it to a competition and see what we can do with it. And then I'll meet you back at the house. We'll close this video out.
Shooter, are you ready? Shooter indicates ready. Stand by. Hit.
God damn it.
Hit.
Woo! Bad start. I don't know.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know, babe.
She did.
Bad start on the... Oh!
No, I did.
By 1 second. By 1 second.
By 1 second. By 2 seconds with Nelson Jr.
Woo! Damn. Ready?
Stand by. All right, shooter, are you ready? Shooter, stand by.
Is that ballerina?
I tried to do the Cole 3-gun thing, but it took me so long to find my sight picture as I was falling. I had only enough time to squeeze one round. That's what I get.
You're right.
Are you ready? Stand by.
that a hit?
Yeah.
Several hundreds of rounds later, the dot's still dead on. So everything has held very tight. Everything is Loctited properly the way the instructions said, which I highly urge you do. If instructions ever tell you to Loctite things, just do it, and you won't have any problems later if you do it right. So the match was great. People seem to really love this package, and after doing everything, shooting hundreds of rounds at the range and getting through a 4-stage match, I gotta say that the way it's set up is probably one of the best ways to set up one of these little 5.56 cranks. The Sureshot SS19 mixed with the Mark III, mixed with the Novus MDS-3, specifically to get that riser to use your iron sights, is a very cohesive package, flows together, looks good together, and it works very well together. And I wish I'd planned all that to happen that way, but it just sort of, sometimes it just be like that. And it do be like that. It works out very, very well. Loving the grip still. The stock is extremely comfortable. It never collapsed on me. My adjustment never collapsed. It never folded on me. Nothing to complain about there. It just worked good. Even for a pre-production model, it worked very well. Other than the rail building heat quickly, to do what I do with guns and shoot them quickly and hard and in a competitive scene, everything did exactly what I needed it to do, and then some. And it got a lot of looks and people wanted to play with it, so that's always cool. I think we're gonna go ahead and close this video out with a final thought. Overall, this like 2.0 crank package with all of the Sureshot goodies and that Novus dot is a 10 out of 10 in my book. It is all kind of expensive stuff. The Sureshot stuff is not cheap, but you know, if you're gonna pay that much money for something, you'd really want to kind of be blown away by it. And dude, let alone the way it looks. I mean, you don't see a lot of cranks without the factory dust cover on, so now everything just sits even like lower and it's just very sleek and streamlined. It's a very unique looking AK, and man, it just feels like a little tank of like a PDW. It just feels so cool, and it's handy. It's accurate, works well, looks good. I don't really have any complaints. If I could change one thing about the rail, I would maybe try to open that M-lock up if that's possible, Bill. I'm sure there's a reason why they didn't open them up. I would love to have that M-lock slot open, and can't wait for the steel rear peeps to come out so I can switch it out for a steel one. That would be cool. And good job, PSA. The crank's still doing well so far. If anything happens, I'll be sure to let you know. Oh, by the way, current round count before the video was that. After all the range time and the match, current round count is that. And no malfunctions throughout this entire video because we're only running brass. Once this thing told me it wasn't gonna run steel, I just stopped running steel. And with the prices, I'm damn sure not buying any steel lately, so we shot nothing but reloads. Those were all Lone Star Ammunitions. It's like a no-name company, reloaded brass case, 55 grain, and it had no problems. And as you know, reloads can always be like a mixed bag. This thing shot them up just fine. So that's all I have for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. What do you think about the little Crank 2.0? What do you think about Sureshot? The SS19 Stock, the Mark III, the MDS-3, pretty cool. That Sonya grip, that charging handle, the overall package. What do you think about it down in the comments below? If you have a crank, how do you have it set up? I always like seeing how people do their thing. All right, that's all I have for you. See you next time. Oh, what'd you do? Oh, you fucked her.
Fuck.
You fucked her.